All right, so I've got the SIRUI 50mm 1.8 anamorphic lens just arrived here. I'm gonna cut off this plastic. Looks like a nice box. Here we go. All the relevant information here. Master the art of cinematic video. Accessories and some sort of little, obviously little instruction manual. I don't know what kind of accessories I'd need with a lens, but thanks. And here it is in nice shrink wrapped. This is a heavy lens. This lens is very robust feeling already for the size that it is. I'll cut this plastic off. And get the lens out here, and there we go. And yes, this is a very solidly built feeling lens. This thing is all metal. The lens is very smooth pull, and you can see how long of a pull you get. You can tell this is designed for cinema. Look at all that between 50 feet and infinity. The lens comes off in our front element, and this is an anamorphic lens. You can see that curved lens element, distinctive of anamorphic. And this is the micro four thirds mount. And that's it. That's the lens. It feels very solid, very well made. Everything here is metal. Nothing is loose or anything like that. It feels like a very good quality, well-crafted piece of glass. Let's just take a look at this and see what we get in here. Is a little lens bag, a little instruction manual, and quality control pass. That's always good to know. SIRUI's done their homework and made sure that the lens passed quality control standards. Typical instruction booklet for something that is pretty obvious in its usage. Attach to camera and turn on camera. And a nice little cloth bag to put the lens in if you don't already have a case or something solid for it. There you go. Thank you, SIRUI. Now we'll throw it on a camera and see what we get. Alright, so I've got the SIRUI Anamorphic lens here on my little Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. This is the original 1080p version, not the fancy new 4K. Just kind of run through the focus and see how the out of focus bokeh looks like. Not super oval and oblong like you'd see in a lot of anamorphic lenses, but it's a nice image. I really like it. Here's some of the lens flares. Just putting this out with my phone, just kind of see what we get. Some like magenta colors in there, and some other nice goings on. The typical streaked anamorphic flares that you expect really show up here, and we'll have some night footage. You'll be able to see that a little bit better later on. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to compare this lens to what I currently shoot with, which is the Contax Zeiss set, and so this is a 50mm on that, just so you can compare the image. And actually I feel like color-wise they mix really well. Obviously this Contax Zeiss is, you can see that distinctive ninja star pattern on it. It's got a much closer minimum focus, and when we see the side by side, you'll be able to really see how that is and how much more out of focus this goes. But then compare the flares to the Contax, and the Contax is very similar, sort of magenta-y, flaring out when the light is right there, super close to it. But then when it pulls back, you definitely see You definitely see the difference between a normal spherical lens and an anamorphic lens. Definitely round, star-shaped flaring there as opposed to the streaky that you get with the anamorphic. And here you can see the side-by-side comparison of just how much more coverage you get. They're both a 50mm lens, and how much more coverage you get on that anamorphic. And here we're looking at the close focus of the SIRUI, which is 32 inches, which is just under 3 feet, which is a pretty standard actually for cinema anamorphic lenses. You use something like a Cook or even like a Lomo or something like that. Those traditionally have about a 3-foot close focus, so this is pretty much on par with that. I was hoping, this being such a small piece of glass, that we would be able to get a close focus, but that's what it is. But you compare that to the Zeiss, the Contax Zeiss, which has a minimum focus of 17 inches, and that's almost this is almost a macro lens at this point. But that's one of the drawbacks that you're gonna have with an anamorphic lens, no matter if it's a large cinema lens or a smaller one like this. Okay, and so my final takeaways, what I like about this lens, the image quality. I think it dang near compares to my Contax Zeiss set. Very beautiful image. It's not as tech sharp as other more modern lenses, most likely because this is an anamorphic. There's a little bit of lens distortion there, but I think the softness adds to the cinematic quality compared to something like the Sigma 18-35. A little more character and cinematic quality to it. The build quality, very good build quality for a small lens. It's very heavy because it's all metal quality components. The focus throw is very long and very smooth. The aperture ring is also smooth, though there's a lot more tension in it, which you kind of want. You don't want to accidentally hit your aperture and change your stops. Obviously it's declicked as a cinema lens should be. A big plus is the price at under $700. I think it's going to retail for about $700, but I got it on their Indiegogo for less than that. For a cinema quality anamorphic lens, there's really nothing out there at all that even comes close to that. The next anamorphic lens that you can get is thousands of dollars. And it's compact size. Having a small lens like that is only good for things like gimbals and handheld and run and gun guerrilla style filmmaking, but compared to any other cinema anamorphic lens, this is much smaller. And for what I don't like, I really wish that it had focus gears. Being a cinema lens, it should have that. I was able to use a spare one that I had lying around, little zip ties, and it works. It doesn't look as good as if they were built in, but it does work. And for the price you're paying for the lens, you know, it's some sort of compromise. And then everything else isn't a drawback of the lens itself, but I guess of the current availability. Obviously, one of the big downsides, it's only available for Micro Four Thirds, E-mount, and Fuji. I got the Micro Four Thirds, and so it's great for something like a Blackmagic Pocket or a GH5. But obviously, if they had a Canon or a Nikon mount, it would make the lens a lot more adaptable, and you could use a lot more systems. You could even use it on red or something like that. But being a small lens like this, you're forced to use one of these smaller mirrorless type camera systems. Hopefully that's something they'll come out with in the future. And then it's only available currently as a 50mm, which is also limiting, especially when you're working on something like a Blackmagic or a GH5 that's not a full frame sensor. I would really like something like a 28 or a 32 with a Micro Four Thirds. That would be a perfect focal length for me, where I could actually use that and shoot an entire feature with that. overall a great lens for a great price. Thank you, SIRUI, for making this. Thank you for listening and watching, and stay safe and take care out there. Bye.